Hello and welcome to another episode. Today we'll be looking at grammar and language functions. Let's get started. The first rule we have today for us is the passive rule. It's one of my favorite rules. Basically, we use the passive when we want to focus on the action rather than the subject. Very simple. We want to know what rather than who. We use any regular sentence starts with a subject, verb, object, but the passive follows a different order. We're trying to emphasize again the action of the verb rather than the subject himself or herself. Let's look at these sentences. I can clean my room. I will clean my room. I should clean my room. I must clean my room. I could clean my room. All of these sentences here are what? What do you notice about them? What do you notice about the order of the sentence? Well, exactly. They start with subject, verb, object. I can clean the room. Very, very easy. Now, the passive is different. There's a different order. Here's the equation for you. In a passive sentence, we start with the object. Object plus modal verb plus be plus verb. In the past participle, plus by plus subject. It's a long equation, but it's very easy, very effective. Let's look at this active sentence. Ali must remember the rule. Ali must remember the rule. And as you can see, we have our subject Ali, the modal verb must, remember is the verb, and the rule is our object. Very easy. Let's try to change it into passive. We start with the object, which is what? The rule must be remembered by Ali. You may ask, what do I mean by modal verbs? What are modal verbs? Here are some examples of modal verbs. Can, could, will, would, shall, should, might, may, and must. Usually shall is used in question forms, so keep an eye out for that. Let's look at the trick. I'm going to give you a trick that will help you when it comes to the passive. The verb to be is an essential part of the rule. In this equation, the verb to be is essential. It should always be there. So, if there is no modal verb in your sentence, we simply replace the verb to be with either was, were, is, are, based on the tense of the verb and the object. And we'll see some examples on that. For example, here, look at the sentence. Maryam visited the museum. Maryam visited the museum. Is there a modal verb in the sentence? No, there is not. So what are we going to replace it with? Is, are, was, or were. How do we choose it? We choose it based on the object. Maryam is the subject, the verb is visited, and the object is the museum. So simply fill in the equation. We start with the object. The museum. The museum is one. It's singular, and so we're either going to use is or was. Maryam visited the museum. The verb was in the past, so we're going to use what? Was. The museum was visited by Maryam. This is as simple as can be. We notice the verb of the sentence and the object. And this is how we choose the verb to be if there is no modal verb. Now, if there is a modal verb, we simply add be after it. So if there is a modal verb like can, could, shall, should, all of these will, we simply add what? Be after it. Let's look at this example. Hassa should design a poster. Let's try to break it down. Our subject is Hassa, should is our modal verb, a poster is our object. We're going to fill in the equation for the passive, and we're going to start with our object, which is what? A poster. A poster should be designed by who? By Hassa. Very easy, very simple. Now, if there is an auxiliary verb used, like have, has, or had, what do? What do we add instead of be? We add been. We follow it with been. So if there is an auxiliary verb like has, have, or had, we simply add been after it. Let's look at an example. Hassa has answered the question. Breaking it down, Hilsa is our subject, has is our auxiliary verb, answered is the verb, and the object is what? The question. We rearrange it to fill in our equation, and we start with the question. Has. What follows has? What follows the auxiliary verb? What do you think? Yes, been follows the auxiliary verb, so it will be the question has been answered by Hilsa. See how easy that is. Here is our summary of our passive rule. Object plus modal verb plus the verb to be plus what? What do you think? Plus the verb in which tense? In the past participle plus by plus subject. And now it's time to try some examples. I want you to change the following sentences into passive form using the following rule. Object plus modal verb plus be plus the verb in the past participle plus by plus subject. Let's look at the first example. We can recycle plastic items in the factory. All you have to do if you get stuck is to simply find the parts of the sentence. Where's the subject? Subject is we. Where is the modal verb? Is it present? Yes, it's can. Where is the verb? The verb is recycle. What can we recycle? Plastic items. These are our objects. So we start with them. Plastic items can. If there is a modal verb, what do we add? We add be. Plastic items can be recycled in the factory by us. Very simple. Another example. The maid will clean the room. Is there a modal verb here? Yes, there is. It's will. What's the subject? The maid. The object is what? The room. So we start with the object. The room will be cleaned by the maid. Let's look at another example. The same sentence, but in different tense form. The maid cleans the room. Is there a modal verb here? What do you think? No, there is not. What's the tense of the verb? Cleans. It's in present. If there is no modal verb, what did we say? We add is, am, are, was, or were, based on the tense of the verb and the object. So the room, which is one, cleans is in the present, so we'll say the room is cleaned by the maid. Easy? If I say the maid cleans the rooms, now the rooms, our object here is in plural form. What will change? Or will it be the same? What do you think? No, it will change, of course. The rooms are cleaned by the maid because the rooms are plural. Very easy. All you need to do is follow an equation. How easy can that be? The gardener must water the plants. Look at the sentence. Is there a modal verb? Yes, it's very clear. Must. What's the subject? The gardener. Where's the verb? Water. What should he water? The plants. So we start with the object. The plants must be watered by who? By the gardener. Very, very easy. All you have to do is simply follow the steps. The mechanic repaired the car. Focus here on the sentence. First thing you have to do is to find the parts of the sentence. The mechanic is our subject. Repaired is the verb. What did he repair? The car. So we start with our object. The car, because there is no modal verb, we're going to use is, am, was, were, or was. The car is singular and the verb is in the past. So what do we say? The car? Yes. Yes. We say the car was repaired by the mechanic. One more question here using the following sentence. My sister has cooked some pasta. Now, what do we do when we see has? Remember, we took this a few minutes ago. My sister has cooked some pasta would be some pasta, the object. Has is always followed by what? Been. Has been cooked by my sister. Some pasta has been cooked. And now another example. The students should have submitted their project. The students should have submitted their project. How do we write this down? We start with what? With the object. The project should have been submitted by the students. See how easy that is? Very, very easy. And we have here another example about the engineer. The engineer could have fixed the problem by now. Could is a modal verb. Very easy. If the modal verb is present, the equation is really easy because you simply just have to fill it in. The engineer could have fixed. So what do we write? The problem could have been fixed. See, we look at the verb. The tense of the verb is really important. We simply write it down. The problem could have been fixed by the engineer. And now, one more question. The artist will have finished the painting. We start with what? With our object. Can you identify the object in the sentence? Yes, it's the painting. So it will be the painting will what? Will have, what follows have? Been. Will have been finished by the artist. Very simple. Simply fill in the equation using the appropriate items. And now it's time to look at a different kind of exercise. You're going to be reading it, pause the video, try to answer it before checking if you got it correctly. People have to follow traffic rules. This is an active sentence. Try to change it into passive. The answer is, the traffic rules have to be followed by people, or traffic rules have to be followed by people. The second question, space shuttles can transport equipment into space. Change it into passive. Look for the object, the verb, if there is a modal verb, and the subject, and then simply rearrange the equation. So it will be, equipment can be transported into space by what? By space shuttles. Another example here for you. The final version of the project should have been submitted by the engineer on time. Very easy. Look for the subject, verb, object, if there is a modal verb, and write it down. What will the answer be? The engineer should have submitted the final version of the project. It's very easy. If you can simply identify the items, you can easily, get the answer. Try to do this by yourself. This exercise must be finished by the students in half an hour. Did you check your answer? Let's check it together. The answer is, the students must finish this exercise in half an hour. Now it's time for you to work on your workbook exercises. Open to page 79, exercise 5. Do the exercise by yourself, and then come back and check the answers. You were asked to change these passive sentences into active ones and vice versa. So let's look at the first one. People have given Venus the epithets, the morning star and the evening star. So how can we change it? The answer would be, the epithets, the morning star and the evening star, have been given to Venus. Very simple if you simply follow the equation. Now, the next question is, the Russians have also sent spacecrafts and probes to Venus. What will it be? Where do we start? With what do we start? Simply find the items. Look for the subject. What's the subject? The Russians. What did they do? Where's the verb? Have sent. What did they send? Spacecraft and probes to Venus. So we start with those. Spacecraft and probes have been sent to Venus by who? By the Russians. This brings us to question C. This report from the meeting can be typed up by the secretary next week. So how do we start with this? We start with the secretary can type up this report from the meeting next week. Check your answers to D, and I'm sure you got the right answer. The news from Kuwait has to be delivered today by the media. Let's change it into passive. The media have to deliver the news from Kuwait today, or media has to deliver the news from Kuwait today. See how it changes when we change the object and change it into plural or singular. Try to do this exercise by yourself and then check your answers. More money should be in education, but it depends on the funds available. More money should be, yes, invested. Excellent. This brings us to the second part of our grammar lesson, correlative and correlative conjunctions. You have either or neither or. Basically, Either or means you're giving an option. You can either have this and that. So it's between two different possibilities. Neither nor, I'm giving you, you cannot have this nor that. We're joining two negative sentences. However, both and means one and the other. So when we use both and, we're talking about two things, one and the other. So basically, if you decide to have both followed by a noun, then and has to always be followed by a noun. If it's followed by an adjective, it also has to be followed by an adjective. For example, Saud plays football, Jassim plays football too. So we'll say both Saud and Jassim play football. See how that works? You can also look at the other example. I speak English, I speak Spanish too. I speak both English and Spanish. However, either or, we said it's for options. You can either have this or that. Look at the examples provided for you. You can study in Kuwait, you can study abroad. You can study either in Kuwait or abroad. We have more examples. You can look at them in the video. Neither nor is when we're giving, you can have joining two negative sentences. So for example, the manager didn't come to the office, the secretary didn't come to the office either. So we'll say neither the manager nor the secretary came to the office today. And this is very easy. You have an exercise here. What I advise you to do is to look at it, work on page 79, exercise 5, and then check your answers. This brings us to prepositions. When it comes to prepositions, we have prepositions of time and prepositions of place. Let's look at prepositions of time. We have in, on, and at. In is used to talk about years, months, seasons, centuries, times, and times of day. Here you have some examples. On is used for days, dates, and specific holiday events such as on Sunday, on the 24th, on National Day, whereas we use at for times, indicators of exceptions, and festivals. For example, at 8, at Helle February, and so on. What you have to do now is to look at these examples here provided for you and try to, just make yourself familiar with what's available. However, when it comes to prepositions of place, it's the same thing. On is when you put something on a surface. In, when we're referring to what is inside something within confined boundaries and countries. And at is used when we're pointing at something at a specific point. Again, you have some examples here for you, and what I advise you to do is to read them and make yourself more familiar with them. We also use by for place. By, which means next to. So when I say it's by the TV, it's next to the TV. The house is by the lake, it's next to the lake. We also have by with a noun when we're referring to a method of something. So for example, I traveled by train, I traveled by bus, I came here by car. Try to answer this question and check your answer. Now it's time for language functions. Remember, when it comes to language functions, we're trying to figure out what you would say in the following situations, what you would write, and to put yourself in that situation exactly. Many people think that space exploration is a complete waste of money. Try to guess how will you respond to that. Another example here is your younger sister is asking you to mention the reason for developing new kinds of aircrafts. What you have to do is just simply imagine that she's telling you that. Try to give examples, justify your answers, express approval or disapproval. It's all up to you on how you want to answer. This brings us to the end of our episode. Today we covered the passive voice. We also covered correlative conjunctions. We covered prepositions, and we looked at language functions. Thank you for watching.